Hey guys, in today's video we'll be going over the freestanding post stanchion. The post stanchion will be used on freestanding projects only. The purpose of the stanchion is to provide additional support and stability to freestanding projects. In this video, we'll be going over the stanchion kit as well as general installation of the stanchion. We'll do separate videos on how it applies to Flex Series and View Series freestanding applications. With the freestanding post stanchion kit, you'll be receiving the post stanchion. On the stanchion, there's a base plate that has holes drilled out on each corner. The open holes are for the anchoring screws. There will also be a set screw installed on each corner, which will allow you to plumb the stanchion once you have the stanchion installed. Next, you'll have the stanchion base plate. And what this is for is once you have your stanchion where it belongs, you'll place the stanchion onto the base plate. This base plate will allow you to adjust the plumbness of the stanchion, and it uses the plate as a solid backer for the adjustment. Also with the post stanchion, you'll have cutouts on each side. These cutouts match the width of the floor track. So when you're laying out your project, you can use the stanchion as a guide for your layout. We'll also be sending 1 3/4 Tapcon screws to attach the stanchion to the floor. Now, if you have a different type of floor, can't use a Tapcon or need a longer Tapcon, you can use your own attaching screws. The last thing we'll send are 2.5-inch framing screws. We will use these screws to attach the post to the stanchion once we have the flex post installed. To give an example of the flex post installed onto the freestanding post stanchion, we'll take our flex post that has already been constructed and slide it over the stanchion. With the flex post on the stanchion, we can then replumb the stanchion if needed, and once in place, we can then run our attaching screws through the framing and into the post stanchion to lock it all in place. To determine the location of the freestanding post stanchions, take a look at your drawing. Anywhere there are flex posts on the drawing, the freestanding post stanchion will be used. To show you an example, anytime you have partitions making a 90-degree turn, you will use a flex post at the intersecting location. At those locations, you will also be using the freestanding post stanchion. The other situation is you have one long partition, let's call it 18 foot long, and on that 18-foot long partition, we're going to put a freestanding post stanchion somewhere along that partition. The max distance that will run in between the freestanding post stanchion is 10 foot. So again, anything over 10 foot, we're going to have a freestanding post stanchion in that partition. Here's an example of using the freestanding post stanchion. Now for this application, we're going to have a freestanding partition. We're going to have a partition coming off this existing wall to this corner, and a partition coming off of this existing wall to this corner. At the corner, we're going to have the freestanding post stanchion along with a flex post that will install onto the stanchion. Now, when laying this out, we want to make sure that we make a 90-degree turn, and you can use the post stanchion as that guide. I already have the freestanding post stanchion plate on the floor. We're then going to place the stanchion onto the plate. Once we have the stanchion where it needs to be, we can go ahead and attach the stanchion to the floor. To attach the post stanchion to the floor, the first thing we need to do is make sure that the anchoring holes in the stanchion align with the holes in the base plate. Once we have those aligned, we can then pre-drill a hole through the anchoring holes and into the floor. something I like to do is I like to drill my holes, one hole first, run anchoring screw into the stanchion. Once I have one screw installed, we can then make sure that the post stanchion is square and then run the remaining anchoring screws. Something I'll also do is I'll run all the anchoring screws first, and then I'll come back and loosen those up so we can plumb the stanchion. So we'll go ahead and get our anchoring screws installed. With our anchoring screws installed, we can now plumb up the post stanchion. Now this step is important because what we want to do is make sure that this post is perfectly plumb. As I mentioned, you can loosen the anchoring screws to allow the stanchion to be adjusted. To adjust the stanchion, you could take a torpedo level and place it on each side of the stanchion and use the adjustment bolt in the base plate of the stanchion to plumb up the stanchion. Once the stanchion is plumb, you can then retighten the anchoring screws. Now this adjustment is going to get you close to where you need to be, but once you have the actual post slid over the stanchion, you can go back and check for plumbness, and if you need to, you can use the same process to loosen up the anchoring bolts and adjust the adjustment bolt on the stanchion plate. With the post stanchion attached to the floor and plumbed, we can now install the flex post onto the stanchion. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you'll need to have the flex post constructed before installing it onto the post stanchion. The reason we're going to do that is it just makes it easier for constructing the post. Once the post is ready, we'll slide it over the stanchion. With the post on the stanchion, go ahead and make sure that that flex post is plumb. If it needs adjustment, do the same process as we did before we put the post onto the stanchion. Loosen up the anchoring screws and adjust the adjustment bolt to get it to where you need it to be. Once it's in the right spot, go ahead and retighten those anchoring screws. With the flex post on the stanchion and it is plumb, we want to anchor that flex post to the stanchion using the 2.5-inch framing screws. With the flex post attached to the stanchion, the installation is complete. Now before ending this video, I want to go over a quick situation you may run into. Now say that you have a project that's freestanding, but the ceiling height's not going to allow you to slide the post over the stanchion. If you run into this situation, what you can do is you can pre-install the stanchion into the flex post. From there, you can get the post and the post stanchion where you need it to be and go through the same process of anchoring and plumbing up the stanchion and the post. That will be the end of this video. If you have any questions, please let us know.